What's going on, guys? This is the Red Rogue, and I hope you're all doing well today. This video is going to be a public service announcement kind of deal for any sneaky boys out there, or basically anybody who runs a rogue in Necrotic Wake, which, if you've been watching the MDI, is basically everyone. There's going to be a change on the 905 PTR that is going to basically eliminate our super cheesy usage of all the weapons in Necrotic Wake. And I'm sure at least some of you know about this from all the theory crafters and community figures, or people just chit-chatting over on the Ravenholt Discord, but for those who don't, this is really important information for anybody who pushes Mythic Plus keys. So let's go over this change and the implications that it's going to have for us as rogues. Do keep in mind that just because this is on the PTR right now doesn't mean they might not just push it ahead in an earlier hotfix to current patch 902 instead of waiting for 905. So to get right to the point of this video, for rogues out there who didn't know this, or for anyone who didn't watch the MDI really, our Master Assassin Legendary was able to guarantee critical hits on all of the weapons in Necrotic Wake. This is a tremendously cheesy strat that allowed some very large pulls where a rogue could just wait until the enemies were all grouped up, and then drop a spear on them that deals a metric ton of damage. It also allowed for heavy AoE damage with the Anima Orb that dealt pulsing AoE damage and silenced enemies, or a nice hard-hitting stun with the hammer on any singular target. This change is not on live servers yet, but due to its heavily prolific usage in the MDI, and admittedly being a pretty cheesy interaction with this specific dungeon, it has become the next target in Blizzard's sights. The end result is the Master Assassin Legendary will become whitelisted. Whitelisted effects are ones that can only work with a very specific list of abilities as determined by Blizzard, and in the case of the Master Assassin Legendary, this means it will only affect rogue damaging abilities in the future. What makes this a double whammy is this also affects any damage trinkets you might be using, such as the Skulker's Wing, the Dreadfire Vessel, the Memory of Past Sins, etc. This combination was very spicy with on-use trinkets in particular, since you could guarantee critical hits by lining up the cast with Vanish whenever possible, or just from whenever you come out of stealth. So on the bright side, this change isn't in effect yet, so if you're still pushing for your Keystone Master achievement, then I highly recommend making sure you get your Necrotic Wake done on the highest Keystone level you possibly can before this is implemented on live servers, at least if you want the easiest time pushing for higher keys. Now that you all know what's waiting around the corner for us sneaky boys and the folks we run keys with, is there anything we can do to help supplement this? As of now, getting to 100% critical hit chance isn't exactly possible, and probably won't be for quite a while due to the secondary stat diminishing return effect that was introduced with Shadowlands, meaning you can't just stack a ton of crit as you get less effective use out of the crit stat as you get more of it. However, there are still a couple saving graces that we have as sneaky boys, and also for anyone who's a member of the Nightfey Covenant, so we'll start with that first. Karane's First Strike trait on her final Soulbind row gives a 25% crit buff if you hit an enemy before they hit you, and it lasts for 5 seconds and is not currently whitelisted. It takes 2 seconds to throw a spear or a hammer in Necrotic Wake, which means you just have to tag something really quick to proc the buff, and then you can chuck a spear or a hammer and still have a pretty high chance of it doing some big damage. The Anima Orb will stay pretty effective too, as you may get an extra second or two of refreshes once the orb starts hitting things, as it counts every time an enemy is hit before you hit them, so keep that in mind as the buff doesn't stack from hitting multiple enemies first, but it does just refresh it. Another advantage remains in the corner of Outlaw Rogues, at least for spear and hammer usage. Between the Eyes gives an additional 20% crit chance bonus on a specific target, so combining this 20% with the 25% from First Strike is pretty big. In dungeons and AoE in general, crit is also a solid stat as Outlaw, so it's very likely for you to be sitting at least around 20 to 25% base crit chance just from your gear if you're around 215 item level. So while that isn't 100%, it's already pretty close for us being in the first patch of an expansion. It does require a bit more setup to get this all to work out correctly than just using Master Assassin like we can currently, but it'll probably end up being the best opportunity we have as rogues once this change goes in effect. And no, because I'm sure someone will ask, neither Ruthless Precision, the Roll the Bones crit buff, nor the extra crit chance from the planned Execution Subtlety Rogue Potency Conduit will affect the weapon crit chance, as those are both whitelisted too. Assassination's Master Assassin talent was already whitelisted, so that is out the window too for sneaky boy options. One big concern that has been expressed for future balancing is that Karane's First Strike buff gives the player a 25% crit buff as an aura, not as an applied debuff to the target specifically hit. This allows players to tag additional targets to keep the crit buff rolling as long as they haven't hit them before, and that the enemy hasn't hit them. It is speculated this might change in the future as well, since the extension and uptime of it is very potent, and if you combine this with things like the Anima Orb, it does allow for a lot of extra crit possibilities, and in general it is a quite strong soulbind trait. As I mentioned earlier, this change is not yet on live servers, at least as of the recording and publishing of this video, so I highly recommend that you get your Necrotic wait key done and as high as possible before this change gets implemented. And another big thing is, just because this is on the 905 PTR doesn't necessarily mean that they have to wait until 905 for this to get implemented. This is a very simple whitelist change, so this is something that could be implemented overnight, or in a week, or 2 weeks, or who knows when. So definitely try and get your Necrotic wakes done as high as possible until this change gets put in, as with this pretty cheesy strategy it does make it a lot easier. Unfortunately, I think this is mainly because of the MDI due to people being able to run like an 18 tyrannical Necrotic wake in like 13 minutes flat or something crazy. So really unfortunate, but there's also the trinket aspect, which is equally unfortunate as that affects all damage and all dungeons, not just one specific one. Not sure why they included trinkets too, maybe because of PvP, I don't know. I don't think many high-rated PvPers run PvE trinkets though, so I'm not sure why they included trinkets too. Anyways, I hope this little informative PSA sort of video was helpful and useful to you. If so, then please consider leaving a comment, a like, or sharing this video with other folks. Especially sharing it just because this is some pretty pertinent information for us sneaky boys and the people that we run keys with, so this information needs to get out there ASAP so people are aware of it. Anyways, I just wanted to extend my gratitude to all my regular viewers, commenters, subscribers, and especially my patrons, who all help make these Shiba Shenanigans possible. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the Red Rogue, and I'll see you guys around.